Looks like we have 4 people joining. Thank you for coming to our very first virtual tour of Epic Yard Farm. This is my first time, so please bear with me while I figure out all the little nuances here. It will be a quick tour, and I'll try to read the chat and see if I could answer questions. But what our plan today is to just give you an overview of the setup of the garden, what is blooming and growing right now. Hi, Pony Girl. You're our neighbor. We're in Tempe, so we're pretty not too far away from each other. All right, I'm gonna see how we can walk around the garden. So feel free to post any questions on here, and hopefully my connection is good through the garden. It is a pretty big garden. We're about 15,000 square foot back here on a 3/4 acre lot in Tempe, in South Tempe. We're really lucky to find this property. And what you're seeing right now, this used to be all gravel with about 2,000 square feet of Bermuda grass somewhere in there. We did the lasagna garden and took all of that out, took all the gravel out, put in cardboard, compost, and wood chips. So that was, work we've done in 2019, summer of 2019 and 2020, 2021 until now is when we do most of the planting. So all the stuff you see here are put in during that time. So we're gonna start here. This is closest to our house. This is our kind of a cottage garden, pollinator garden area. You'll see a lot of the Mexican evening primrose here. Um, the bees love them. The butterflies seem to love them. And we have our butterfly bush here. This is a variety that is a little rare compared to the ones that's usually found in the nursery. We got it from the Boyce Thompson Arboretum a couple years ago as a tiny plant, and it had grown huge. It's competing with the mature citrus tree we have here for sure. And over here you'll see the damask rose. This is the type species of roses that's used to make rose water. And so the petals are edible. It smells amazing. We dehydrate them to mix with green tea to make our own blend of tea. And over here, this is one of the first vegetable planters we put in. It's kind of overgrown right now. You'll see lots of the sunflowers, some broccoli growing in there. This is a volunteer parsley that we kind of let it go because we like to provide a lot of food for the native pollinators. We create kind of a balanced biodiversity here. That way they can take care of each other. We never use pesticides. We don't even really do any kind of bug management because once the bed bugs show up, there's enough of them, birds or other predators for them will show up and they will take care of each other. So it's a very hands-off type of gardening. We call it the natural style gardening, but also kind of a permaculture style of gardening. And you can see we're trying to mimic kind of a food forest and kind of a natural wild style of gardening. So there's not a lot of lines and designs. It's just things will grow where they're happy. That's kind of our style. This is the damask, Damask is the species. And we get this from the High Country Roses. If you go on their website, they have a couple available right now. And I like that company because they grow their roses from root cuttings. So it's not grafted. So you can cut the plant down really hard, or if you have a hard freeze, you're not worried about losing that species of the specialty roses that you get from them. So, so that's a really good one. And you can see we have two plants, and they can get up to, I pruned it back quite a bit, but it has potential to go up to 7 feet tall if you let it. We kind of try to contain it a little bit here. So I'm gonna walk a little bit more. Here is our another experimental planter we had in the beginning of the moving in here. We stacked brick up and made a planter and filled it up with soil. And that we planted like potatoes and different things. And what you're seeing right now in there is these are actually green onions that was store bought, like scallions. And I saved the root and planted them 2.5 years ago. And then they just keep growing. So what I'll do is I'll harvest these leaves and stalks. I'll cut it back, harvest the stalk, cook with it, and then they will keep coming back. So we have a lot of these multi-year perennials that is usually grown as annuals, and we're lucky to have so much space right now compared to our old place. So I can leave plants to go and experiment with them, see how long they can go, how productive they can be if left alone instead of replanting every year. So that's the kind of stuff I'd like to experiment in our food forest and share that info with you. And over here we have an olive tree. This olive tree, I can't remember the pronunciation of the variety name, but it's supposed to produce olive that will produce really good quality oil. But we'll also eventually experiment with making process the olives to see if we could preserve them for use later. And over here, I'm just backing up on our pollinator path, the little pollinator path. One of the things I've posted recently is our Texas blue bonnets. We lived in Texas for a few years, and one of the things I really love is the Texas blue bonnets. So these are all volunteers from our first year planting a couple years ago, and they're forming seed pods now. And in a month or so, here's Zira. She's always looking into where I'm pointing the camera because she thinks I'm spotting lizards and she's wanting to hunt lizards. So here we also have, this is a green fig that cutting that was gifted to me when we were still in the old house. We transplanted that to this property and it's growing really, really well. And it produced a very sugary fig. The birds don't seem to bother it too much, but we really like how well it grows with very little care. One of the things we did grow a lot and really well is moringa trees at the old property. And for some reason, we can't get them to establish here at this new place. And my theory is because this was all gravel, all grass, I think they used a lot of herbicides in the gravel because when we first moved in, there was no weed, no signs of weed in the gravel. And my only guess is there was a lot of herbicide that was used to control the weed. So we see some plants struggle, some plants do okay. Depends on where they're placed. So to my surprise, I always tell people moringa is super easy to grow, but our moringa is just not doing well here. So this, another reason I think they don't do well here is our yard here gets really, really cold. Regularly it will get down to 23, 24 degrees during the winter, and we see a lot of tropical, subtropical struggle here during the winter time. So, but we're still continue to experiment. This guy will die back every winter, and then it will come back bigger and stronger every year. So all these are dead material. You see, and so these big trunks are probably all dead too. So we'll have to cut them out and make space for the new shoots that will come up from the root. So here's another view of the garden. To let you see, so that is north, that's west, east, and then that's south. So you'll see a lot of these plants actually are not getting shade yet. So in the summertime, everything gets blasted quite a bit in the summertime from the west sun. And most of you who have been with me a while, you know I do very passive gardening. So I don't put up shade cloth, I don't put up frost cloth, things like that. So a lot of things here that you see are going to be doing okay here with minimal care because we don't do a lot of babying in our plants. So this is our fruit tree orchard, kind of a dedicated area for fruit trees. And we last year put in a few quince trees, and this is another tree that do really well here, very little care. You can see it have formed fruit now. The quince, if you're not familiar, is kind of a cross. They belong to the rose family, just like apples and pears, and it's kind of a cross between apple and pear, I will say. It's usually used for cooking and making jam. Um, they don't taste very well raw, but when you bake like something like apple pie, you want slices of them in there, it will kind of hold their crunchiness. So your apple pie will have nice texture when you mix quince in there. And these will ripen in September and October. And you see they are very productive. And the way you prune them is you want to dormant prune early in the winter because the flower and fruit are formed at New Year's growth. So you can see this little stem is grown this spring, and that's where the flower is. So all of these fruit and flower heads are from stem that has grown, the buds that grown out this spring. Here we have cotton candy and aprium, and then this one is Go Kiss apricot. Oh wait, this is Go Kiss apricot. This one is cotton candy aprium. This is one of my favorite is the Spice Z Nectar Plum, and we got a few fruit last year from this tree, and it was delicious. You can see how beautiful the foliage is, and it will through the year it will put out these beautiful red tips, and it's kind of a showstopper for us in this garden. And excuse the mess there. So this is a Desert King fig. This is actually air layer cutting we took at Kay's place in California at her late bloomer garden in California a few years ago before she moved to Tennessee. And on her move to Tennessee, she stopped by here and gifted us this rooted cutting of her Desert King. So we're trying to make sure we take care of it, and we have a little piece of late bloomer garden here in our garden. So you may have seen some of our hexagon planter videos, how we built these planters and then how we fill them up. Again, a lot of times I let plants just take over. I let them go to bloom to feed the bees and the butterflies. So right now you're seeing this collard green was actually planted back in winter of 2021. So this again survived our summer last year, and kind of just taking over this planter. And we upcycled kind of a store wall display from one of the Pear One stores in town that was going out of business. And it makes a really good trellis, very strong. So this is another of the hexagon planter here in our Pollinator vegetable garden area. So this is the edible chrysanthemum. In Chinese cooking, especially during hot pot season, we like to add the leaves in the soup. It has a unique herbaceous texture and smell and taste, and it's just, it kind of invoke a really special memory for me because of how it relates to the hot pots for me. So, but they also create these beautiful flowers in the spring that you can harvest and save and make tea later with them. So multi-use plant and also quite beautiful. And over here, intermixed, we have the blooming yellow flower is the Jerusalem sage. They're really pretty and very drought tolerant. Another very hands-free plant. I think I've seen bumblebees and hummingbirds going at it. I haven't really spotted too many butterflies going. Pony girl, I do let everything self-seed. If if anything go to seed, I just let them go and see what happens, because that way it's seeds that's from plants that have acclimated here on our property. So I believe the more generations, each generation of new seeds come from the plants that's grown here, will adapt better for our climate, our microclimate specific to Epic Yard Farm here, compared to some of the seeds you will purchase online. So a lot of times for self-sow, we just pull them out if we see them where we don't want them. My husband will make fun of me in the late summertime when we will have hundreds of sunflowers that come up. These are more native to the Arizona, so they are multi-stem sunflowers, but they also grow really well here. And in the summer, we'll have birds and bees and butterflies just all over these sunflowers. But you can probably see they're just coming up everywhere. So when we see them where we don't want them, like I'll show you. So here's another patch of the sunflower. And I have already pulled off, there was some flower kind of growing here at the end of the path, right in front of our fairy grape dome. And I have already pulled off some. So, so like these, I'll just pull them. And with the wood chips, their roots are not super hard to pull. So they just come right up, like this. And then I also do the chop and drop, which you'll see is how we create our own compost. And oh, you see, these are volunteer asparagus from the seeds that was dropped from our Jersey night. The Jersey night asparagus actually, they're supposed to be male plants, but they do bloom really well. And that's another plant. So here, sorry, I'm like jumping all over the place. But since we're here, I'm going to show you our asparagus beds. You've probably seen some posts from me, all the harvests we've done. This is the Jersey night bed. And Jersey night is the green ones. So here it is. And this is arugula. I like to just spread arugula everywhere through the winter so I can harvest them anytime I want. But it's kind of hard. I don't know if you could hear there's bees in here because the asparagus is blooming right now, and they have these really cute flowers, and the bees adore them. I feel like they will overfeed themselves a little bit on these flowers because I've seen honeybees just kind of tumble through here like as if they're flying drunk. So but they're great for pollinators. So if you want to create a pollinator garden, again, asparagus is not only great for edible. I mean, these asparagus are so delicious. They're so sweet. When you first harvest them, within the 15 minutes, that sweetness will go away. That's why the store-bought ones are not as sweet as the homegrown ones. But see all these flowers. There's thousands and thousands of flowers. See these bees, and they will just feed on this like crazy. And I'm pretty sure this is one of the have at least this thickness to harvest the asparagus. And some of the ones I missed to harvest, you can see how big these asparagus are, and that's a lot of food. So here, I'll show you some more. So this patch, this root crown, I have finished harvesting because these are the early stalks that came out earlier in this, probably 3 months ago, and they have grown into fern. But the new ones are much skinnier. That means we have depleted their energy. So you want to let these go into fern through the summer to absorb the sun and store more energy for next year to give us these fat ones next spring. So what I read is you want to have at least 8 asparagus plants per person. Like that will produce enough. You know, you don't want to just have 1 stalk per person per harvest. You probably want to have 3 or 4 stalk per person per harvest. So the more you can plant. So this thing is about 18 feet long, and we have 2 rows of the crowns. So there's 20 crowns of the Jersey Knight in here. And this is only year 2 for them, the official year 2 spring. So we harvested about 4 weeks continuously of this asparagus. So you can see how tall they can get. They're 6 feet tall over here. They could probably get up to 7 feet tall as they mature. So you can see all the flowers. And since that's the west side, and the asparagus get tall and dense in the summertime, I like to plant things that need protection from the sun on the east side or south side of the asparagus. So this is the red vein sorrel that we got from Vilardi Gardens. And this is its 2nd year here in this bed. We've been harvesting these to cook. They're kind of like spinach without the spinach flavor. But they're really nutritious and beautiful, as you can see. You can use it in salad and stuff. Here you see another sunflower popping up here. So the asparagus crowns that you buy in the store and online usually are 1-year or 2-year-old crowns. So they give you a year or 2 head start compared to if they're grown from seed. We try to harvest every day because they pop up every day and throughout the day. So the Jersey Knight comes on first, and then this is the sweet purple that is about 2 to 3 weeks behind Jersey Knight. So what's great is when Jersey Knight is almost done, and I'll walk you to this little patch, this crown is putting out beautiful purple asparagus. So these are ready to harvest, see? And this is how I harvest them. Um, Sorry about the camera angle. Um, this is how easy it is to pull them up. And this is one crown. And there's more coming up right here. So there you go. We just harvested 4 purple asparagus. And you can see all these. This is another one. These are really fat. This is like thumb size. So this is the sweet purple variety. We got this from the groworganic.com or Peaceful Valley in California. They mailed us 1-year-old crowns that is super healthy. So I think that's partially why we have such great success with these, because they are just producing like crazy. And if you don't harvest them quickly and you wait till this starts to unfurl, then it will become fern and then the skin will be tough, right? And when they're tough, you know how that goes. You can still like vegetable peel it, but it's just not the same, you know? So, and here's another that we planted winter last year, and it survived our summer under the shade of the asparagus, and it's still growing. Here's Jeremy, my husband, saying hi, checking on us. Our watering schedule varies through the year. So in the winter time, they get about once a week, deep water, long watering, like an hour-long watering once a week. Right now, it's every 5 days. And eventually, I'm just going to set this here next to the chocolate flower. And then in the summer, depends on the forecast. Sometimes I'll have every 2 days. Because like these beds, these sunray beds, these 3 beds, we don't really do any like wood chips or anything on top. So they dry up pretty quickly because of the full exposure of the sun. You can see how I just pack in the winter time. So after about 2 to 3 hard freeze, the asparagus plant will turn into these light beige brown dry things. So I pull them out of the ground directly, just like how I harvest them. They come out quite easy, and I'm still trying to figure out how I should manage that, because this is a huge patch, so I produce a lot of this asparagus spent ferns, and I think they're too stringy to go through the wood chipper, so I haven't really figured out what to do, but right now they're just the messy ground cover at the moment. But it's a really strong one. And this is our blue butterfly pea flower. They're a very tropical plant. I've seen them when I was in Singapore visiting one of their edible gardens, and you can see in the winter it dies back really ugly, but I also didn't have the time to clean it up. But as soon as it warms up, the greens start to come back, and then more will come back from the root. And you see little seedlings coming up too. I have tons of seedlings just popping up from the base. So this is another permanent plant for us. I think some people say to grow them like annual plant too, but you know, if you have a way to protect the root from hard freeze, which I think because of our dense planting, the roots stay quite protected. So that's why they come back so readily every summer. You see these seedlings; these are all seeds dropped, you know, from last year, and they're ready to sprout. And this is that stonehead cabbage that I posted this morning. So you'll see these little heads are quite delicious. And I haven't seen any aphids on there. So all of these are from one plant that I harvested one head spring of 2021, and it's going into bloom. I let everything kind of just go into bloom. But once I cut this back a little bit, and then it just kind of do its own thing through the summer. In the spring or winter next year, or this coming winter, this will be pretty and green again, and we'll have more heads to harvest. But you can see this just take up this spot, you know, for an extended period of time. So I'm starting to run out of planter space. This is the really pretty Italian leaf broccoli. I can't remember the pronunciation for it again, but I love how pretty the leaves are. And what I usually do is just snap off this and eat this part. And then where you snap off, they'll just produce more of those little ones. Every little junction offshoot here, they'll grow new ones. So again, I got this from Vilardi Gardens. Next year, keep an eye out for them. They're beautiful and delicious. I'm going to turn around here. This is our Mediterranean garden. So this area doesn't get a whole lot of irrigation. And again, it's full sun exposure. So we have the typical rosemary. This is the thyme. Thyme is going into full bloom right now. You can see the bee just harvesting nectar. This is the chocolate flower. This guy self-seeds every year. You can see the seed head here. And they just come back every year. And this is the barbecue rosemary. Its growing habit is very straight and long stems, so you can skewer meat on the stem and then just put it straight on the barbecue. It's quite beautiful. Let's see, our little soil mount that we built for the caper plant is overtaken by this native weed. This is not invasive weed, it's a native weed, but it does spread really quickly. But I'm experimenting to see if they become a good ground cover to keep soil cool for some of the plants. Of course, the caper plant doesn't really need that. And you can see our caper is forming the flower buds, ready to bloom. I personally like to harvest the berries because they're much bigger. You got more food per head of flower. Oh, you see a grasshopper. And you get to enjoy the beautiful flower, where the normal capers that you get in the restaurants and store are the flower buds. So they're graded by how small they're harvested. The more smaller they are, the more expensive they are. Because when they're fatter like this, it's more hollow inside and the texture is not as good. But if you get to enjoy the bloom and then wait for the berry to form, you'll get the berries that you can pickle and consume later. So caper is a great plant for here. They do die back during the winter time, so I'll show you where the tissue that got frostbit. So these are the dead tissue from the winter freeze. And I tell you, our winter here is harsh compared to our Epic Air Farm 1.0. But they will grow back new shoots every year and it will get big. But their biggest enemy is these flea beetles. You can see this little guy here. I don't know. They will eat holes into the leaves. You see this guy's already really damaged. I could kind of control it, but I just like to spray water and knock them off every now and then to control it this way instead of using, I think some people use DE. You can see this guy here. But I don't use that either because they're not really that great for the bees. They do hurt the bees a little bit. So I try not to use that either. Hopefully everybody's still on here. Feel free to ask questions. But I'm just gonna walk you through some more of our garden. This is the Dino Kale that's been here also 2 years. And we have the purple and the base. So these are potential future cauliflowers, or sometimes I just harvest the leaves. The leaves are really delicious too. They're sweeter and less bitter than the collards. So I like to eat cauliflower, cabbage leaves, and broccoli leaves. So I'm trying to see, this is the other thing I was going to show you. This is that really beautiful red color, purple color Brussels sprout. And see how it tipped over like this? But see how it shoot up a new stem with more Brussels sprouts right here. And there's another one behind it. See if I can show you. See? So these, I think brassicas are pretty amazing. See all these baby future Brussels sprouts. So this is my experiment, doing a lot of just letting plants do their own thing past their expiration date, normal expiration date. Celery going into flower. This will definitely be pulled out because they don't really do well in the summer. Our soil dried out too quickly for them to really stay. They get really bitter and herbaceous when it's too dry. So if you heard of the Cape gooseberry or the golden cherry, this is one of the 2 plants we have. It got knocked back real hard in the late spring. We had a really late frost and it killed our main crop. But see how it just come back? It came back like crazy, and now we're having flower buds and blooms, and you can smell the beautiful scent from the fruit because some of them are ready. So I'll harvest a couple to show you. Look at that beautiful golden berry right here. It smells so tropical. Here's another one. And again, this is its second year. And again, this is its second year. And this Cape gooseberry just took over and it owned this space now. There's nothing else really grow other than this little Thai long green eggplant, I think might be dead too. It's not really coming back, but this thing is huge and it's extremely productive. So you can see it produced right now. So this crop will probably fully ripen in another few weeks. And there was a main crop that was happening in mid to late February. So you get the fruit during the cooler seasons. And in the summer, they kind of lay dormant a little bit, but mainly because of the blooms don't really set fruit because it gets too hot. But in the cooler months, they will bloom again and produce again, and the taste gardens. And they do delivery within the valley with a fee, and it's totally worth it because they have some of the most well-adapted plants for here. So if you're in Arizona or in Phoenix, look them up and try a few of their plants, because all the things I've shown you, other than the fruit trees, 90% of them are from Vilardi Gardens. And I'll remember to put a link for them in our description for this live stream. Once I'm done, I'll add those information on there. So this is one of the new peaches we put in last year. This is a Babcock white peach. This is kind of a early summer, late summer peach. It ripens about July, August, and is quite delicious. They're kind of similar to the tropic snow, but I think they ripen later than tropic snow. So if you want more peaches through the summertime, you can plant the tropic snow for the earlier harvest and then the Babcock for the later harvest. And again, I've let these weeds kind of just take over. And this one is the Globe Mellow, I believe. And we do harvest, so their seed head, when they're green, could be used to make marshmallow. This is our Anna apple, I believe. This is its first year producing fruit. It's been in the ground for, this is the second year. It's a small tree, that's how it goes. If the fruit hangs on through the summer, I believe this is another variety that ripened a little later, maybe in August. So the sun may bake the peaches on this tree, so we'll see how this goes. Total experiment here. And this is a multi-grafted pluot, also a new addition for us. So no fruit on here yet. And back towards the asparagus bed, we have the Quince, another Quince variety, and you can see we're just loaded with quince. I'm not sure if I want to thin them or not. I kind of, part of me, the experimental part of me, wants to see what it does with all these fruit. If you have experience with them, please feel free to comment and let me know what you think. So this is kind of our big project that we did. We repurposed a trampoline frame. I think this is a trampoline frame that was 20 feet across. So we took the frame that was holding the bouncy part, and my husband built this brace to kind of hold them together, the four segments, and then we welded these wires so we can create the trellis for this dome. We're calling it the fairy grape dome or grape fairy dome, just because we have fairy LED lights. At night they twinkle like fireflies. They're solar powered, like this. Oh, it's not looking too good, but it still glows at night. And this year we have the Thompson seedless is going crazy, so we're hoping we'll get a nice crop of it, because when we were in Greece, we were sat in a restaurant where they have a trellis, an arbor right above the patio, and there were grapes hanging down from there, and you can just reach up and pull grapes and eat it. So we try to mimic that, and I eventually will build a base for this. This will be a bench that we can sit under the trellis. So imagine sitting right here, and you look up and you reach for some grapes. so so it's interesting. We have some flower buds that's dropping. So my guess is maybe it didn't get enough water, and it didn't really set the flowers properly. Um, so that's kind of interesting. But they haven't fully bloomed yet. These are all still closed, these grapes. So this is the fairy grape dome. And in this corner, so that's Thompson seedless green grape. This side we have the flame and the red resilient. I'm not familiar with this grape, but it has really pretty leaves that come out in the spring. A little bit fuzzy compared to the really tender leaf from the flame and the Thompson seedless. So to show you some of the things that's going really well, but also show you things that we struggle. So this is the fourth Pakistan mulberry that I'm trying to grow here. And every one that I put in the winter from bare root will die back. And I don't know why. Part of me want to blame the herbicide that was put in here before. Part of me was thinking the bare root trees of the Pakistan cuttings get frozen back really hard, and that's why they don't come back in the spring. Because all these other trees are bare root trees, and they do just fine, but the Pakistan I have not had success, and I miss our Pakistan mulberry from the old place. So I definitely want that going. And these are a pile of trimmings from the sunflowers that we pulled out last year after they were done. So again, we produce a lot of our own compost because of our chop and drop method. So it's messy. It's definitely messy. It's not for everyone. But for me, with a full-time job, this kind of works. I can come back and deal with it whenever I feel like. Mexican species do so well here. They grow naturally in the waterways through southern Arizona. Around Tucson, you'll probably see them. They will grow like 15, 20 feet tall, and they will live for many, many years. So we got this from Rich's Garden Center in North Phoenix as like a 5-gallon plant, and maybe about a foot tall. And now it's really settled in and has grown. I think that's about 6.5 foot tall, maybe 7 foot tall. And their fruit is more of a pale blue color, different from the ones that you see normally of the black elderberries. But I think their nutritional value is probably about the same. But look at that. We are first fruit set ever on this plant. I'm so happy. How really sad looking bamboos. I need to do some nutritional fixing of them. They definitely need more nitrogen. But this is the giant timber bamboo. In about maybe 3 more years, the shoots will come up much fatter, and then I can harvest them for cooking. They're so delicious. They're definitely a seasonal crop that in Taiwan, where I'm from, everybody looks for in the spring. They're just super delicious. So we got this variety, and then that one is a very similar variety to giant timber, also very delicious shoot. But as you can see, I'm neglecting them too much. They definitely need more nitrogen and probably more water, poor guys. The one thing we're having challenge with is the watering. We do not have flood irrigation as big as this property is, and we're actually only less than a quarter mile away from properties that have flood irrigation. Um, but to me, I'm kind of on the fence because I don't know if I want to deal with that much water on our property all the time. But we're running into, so we're still trying to figure that out before we put in too many more new plants. This is, you know, I'm totally running a blank, but this flower um, smells amazing. But I forgot the name. In Asia, we have a variety that produce much fatter um, flowers than this, and then they'll be used in soups and stuff and teas. And they're like jasmine flower. They're very fragrant and very beautiful. So I will try to figure out what the name is and then add it in our description. We have this, I think it's Mexican Palo Verde that's growing on the other side. We're right next to the canal. So people actually can kind of look into our yard from the canal when they're jogging or running. But this tree kind of give us a little bit of cover and give us beautiful flower in the spring. You can see some of the scattered self-seeded wildflowers from a mix I put in a couple years ago. They just kind of volunteer everywhere. And this is our sugarcane patch. A lot of the old canes, I haven't gotten the time to pull them out to make room for the new canes, but the old canes that got frostbitten are just kind of shaggy here. One of the hopes we have is to create more shade, and we have put in a mesquite tree there, and oh yes, honeysuckle, nice. Pony Girl, I'm on a 3/4 acre, so it's not quite an acre, um, but we are the biggest lot in the neighborhood. This is the museum Palo Verde, so it's not thorny. It's still got little thorns here and there, but the desert museum Palo Verde. So these are our hope to get shade soon from these couple of trees that we put in. And I'm gonna turn around to our desert garden. So this is the arid desert garden area where very minimal irrigation is run to here. We have put in a couple of all the other sunflowers and including Jerusalem artichoke. If you're familiar with Jerusalem artichoke, they resprout from their roots. So these guys resprout from their root too, but they don't have the tubers that you eat. They will be considered famine food if you try to eat the roots. But I don't have to reseed them. They come back from the roots. All I do is just pull the dead stem off to clear the ground, and then they just come back each year. And we have this patch here that's looking really funny. The root formed this crazy shape, and that's where they're coming back. So these will bloom in September when the local. Sorry, can you hear me now? Is it better now? Sorry, I must have walked too far from the Wi-Fi. Is it better now, Pony Girl? I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get my Okay, I'm so sorry. Hopefully from here is a little better. So we were talking about the globe mellows. These are the native mellows. And we also have the wolfberries. These are similar to the goji berries, but they're native to here. And they bloom throughout the year. Um, and they produce fruit that you can harvest, but most of all, you can also, the fruit can be a good food source for birds. So you can provide flowers for the pollinators, for the butterflies, the bees, and you provide fruit for the birds when the fruit is formed, but you can also harvest the fruit yourself to enjoy. Now I'm kind of, I can't take you over there because my Wi-Fi doesn't extend far enough. But you see, that's one of the failed Pakistan mulberry, our first Pakistan mulberry that we planted, but no fruit. We think the rootstock took over. So that guy, we're just kind of keeping an eye. I may graft and make that a multi graft mulberry tree. And that one is the Shangri-La mulberry here. And we've been harvesting from this guy. Very delicious. And over here, you'll see a little patch. That is our one of our artichoke patch. So that's that. And then that's our mystery fig tree. This guy is mature, is planted. A lot of the mature citrus trees, and this fig tree is planted by the original homeowner. And we don't know what it is for sure, but a little better. Thank you all for sticking with me. I know this is very frustrating when we have connection issues, and I didn't realize my live stream could run this long. Um, but there's a lot to share. So this is the second artichoke plant. So sorry, Pony Girl. Thank you for sticking around. I'm so sorry about that. We switched to cellular, so hopefully we're good anywhere in the yard. So I was talking about um, these fennels that we planted in the mix with like the desert milkweed and stuff like that, because when the monarch butterfly, the caterpillars eat and live on the milkweed. After that, they try to find somewhere else from the milkweed to crystallize. So if you could provide plants like this, we'll give them kind of a safe spot that they can go in and form crystallize. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but so that's why we have kind of intermixed fennel and stuff in the among the desert milkweed, and the artichoke plant could be one of those nursing plants too. They can kind of crawl their way there and find a spot to kind of settle in before they become butterfly. So the desert garden area, the experiment I do is to not put wood chips here. I want to try to see how it will do by itself without wood chips, without intervention. So you'll see a lot of weed growing here. And I kind of look at them like ground cover, natural ground cover, as they would out in the wild in the desert here. So so most of the stuff that show up here are the globe mellows. Um, we have these, I think they're called a spiderling plant. Honeybees love these too. Um, but they spread like crazy. So if you don't have the space and don't want to deal with them because their seeds are sticky, they will stick to your clothes. But this is how they propagate and spread. But I love these flowers because the honeybees will like put their body weight on this and this whole thing will just drop. Um, but it's good food source, just providing a wide range of food source for the honeybees. And this is a pomegranate plant that was here before us. Don't know the variety, but it's not as tasty as the angel red that I had at our old house. So I may try to graft or just just let it be, maybe. This is our lemongrass. Here we have done some experiments. So at our old house, I have planted a bunch of avocado seeds directly in the ground. You can put them pointy side up in the ground about, you know, maybe 3 inches below ground. And it will take them about 5 to 6 months to come up, especially in the winter. But in the summertime, when it's hot, they come up a little faster. But you can see we have uh, avocado seedling over here, and they're all bouncing back from the winter damage. That's another one over there. So I'm using this space because this area gets flooded with the irrigation. Not flood irrigation, but our irrigation for the citrus tree. We kind of let it overflow and kind of fill this area. So this area is extra moist in our yard, and I'm hoping that will give the avocado trees enough moisture and the jacaranda tree here to give it enough protection in the through the year to let these avocado seedlings mature and grow big and then maybe produce down the road or big enough for me to graft. A couple of the avocado seeds that I grew at our old place grew up to 6 feet tall in a year, and they were super happy. So I was kind of sad to leave them there, but I know we can't transplant them, so I'm just starting new experiment here. So we'll see. So here we're back to the fig tree, and a lot of people ask me, um, when do fig produce ripe fruit? And depends on your variety. You'll have a couple of things happening on your fig tree. So when we're pruning, I'm trying to find a good stem here. When we're pruning, and you'll see this brown part of the fig tree, this is from last year's growth, and it's already got figs on it. So this is called the Breba crop. This is the bonus crop. Not all fig trees will do this, but they will always produce new fruit on this year's growth. So this is this spring's growth. You know, this branch formed, this green part of this branch formed in the last few weeks, and it's already got baby figs on it. But these won't ripen until late summer. These these Breba crops are gonna form ripe figs in late May, and we'll have a crop of late May fig, and then in September, October, November, and probably more like November is when they fully ripen, we'll get another crop from this tree. So I think Alma is the name. I'll have to double check the variety that I think it is. So there is a cocktail chef in Ohio that orders fig leaf from me um, to use to infuse with liquor and make really tasty liquor cocktail mix for his establishment. So you can do so much with the fig other than just the fruit, the leaves. You can use it to flavor ice cream and of course the liquor. Linda, you're here. We're still live. I'm still going. So thanks for joining us. We're getting a little bit of wind here. So here's I've already harvested a few of the bigger heads of the artichoke this year. This is my second time growing them, so I'm still learning, the optimal time to harvest them. But I know you can harvest them at this stage. The second and third flush of the heads are much smaller, but you can still cook them and eat them. Let's see. So that is Saturn peach. They're like donut shaped peach over there. Ah, here, this is the prickly pear that we grown from a pad. You know, that was the original pad that we planted, and all these new pads formed from there. And we have beautiful flowers forming right now, coming in. So these will all turn into prickly pear that we can harvest and juice in a few months. And again, if you like to take care of the local pollinators, honeybees and stuff, fairy dusters are great to have in your garden. They're beautiful. And again, they're low water use. A lot of these, they actually don't like to be watered. So they're perfect for the desert themed garden. So most of these are very low maintenance, very easy to care for. And I think this is the Peruvian pear or Peruvian apple cactus. And this should produce fruit too, bloom and produce edible fruit. And I heard that it tastes very much, very close to dragon fruit. So we'll see. I haven't actually tasted one yet. And yes, we have a basketball court. And we are not taking it out. I already have 19,000 square feet of plantable space. I don't need this space. We actually do use, you see it on the ground there, that's our badminton net. So we do play basketball out here and play badminton, volleyball out here when people come visit, our friends come visit. Um, it feels like a wasted space, and you can see it's full of weed, but you know, we do like our little court that the previous homeowner put in for their little boys to play. This is another milkweed, milkweed food. This is the Arizona milkweed. They grow naturally out um, in the northern, like Payson, Prescott area. They grow in a wild. So we put this here under the tipu tree, which we have some. Um, I can't remember what they are now, but they're also pollinator bees, but they build little homes by cutting up little leaves, pieces of leaves. Um, but they do well down here under the shade of the tipu tree. And another one of the milkweed that can do okay here, and I'm surprised it's continuing to grow, is the pine leaf or needle leaf, pine needle leaf milkweed. And you can see the blooms. I have not spotted monarch butterfly on them yet, but they seem to do okay in our garden here. In the summertime, the sugarcane shades it from the harsh afternoon sun, so that's how it's surviving here. I think it will do much better in like Tucson, Prescott, or even Payson. So let's see, the final part of our garden, well, not the final part, but the furthest corner of our garden is the unused space, only because I can't run water out here. the water pressure is just not enough. This wall is about 200 feet long, and the irrigation starting point is at the back of that building. And there's just not enough water pressure for us to run all the way out here. So things that grow here are things that can uh, take care of themselves without much irrigation. So the vitex tree, it blooms beautiful purple flowers to provide pollinator food, but it also doesn't need, I maybe water this twice a year, and then the rest is just rain. Another plant we have here, these two are the Chinese jujube. This is the Chico jujube. It's super sweet and juicy, not like the Lang and Lee jujube. So I got this from Burnt Ridge Nursery online. This is the honey jar jujube, and again, it's another tree that doesn't need a whole lot of water. And look at how much flowers on here. Maybe we'll get our first crop this year. Oh, I just noticed how tall this tree is. So this is the back of our yard, and I'm gonna walk you over to our experimental apple and pear area. I tried to do a theme, but it just looks so messy. uh, so again, it's not for everybody, my gardening style. Very, very hands off, but when I have results, it just got much sweeter in the sense of, hey, I didn't have to work that hard for it. There you go. So this is our first ever pear. This is the Magnus pear that we got bare root and planted January of 2020. And we believe this particular flower got pollinated by the giant Waddell pear that's in the desert garden area, and we have one pear. This particular tree's pollen is not very good for pollinating, so it needs other pear trees around to pollinate it. But we got lucky, so I'm definitely putting a mesh bag over this to see if I could keep it going without the birds getting to it first. It's still blooming, but we don't have any other pears around to pollinate them, so I'm pretty sure that's the only pear that we'll get this year. But we got pear. And you can see our neem tree got knocked back real hard this winter. So we'll see. It will probably come back from the root, but we're gonna let it do its thing. This is our experimental apple orchard. Again, is also a very neglected area. This is the pink lady apple. It just started blooming. And we have the Granny Smith that's just waking up too. No blooms yet. This is our red love era, the apple that's developed in Switzerland, and the flesh will have like a pink red tone in the flesh, and you can see the beautiful blooms. So we haven't gotten fruit from this yet because it's still quite new. I'm hoping it's cross-pollinating with the pink lady right now, since that's what's blooming right now. So we'll see. I'll keep you posted. But this thing, when it grows, the leaves are really pretty. The flowers really pretty. We'll see if it will do well here. And we have this volunteer pink. Ooh, pink gold mellow growing here. So that's about it. That's our garden tour. Thank you all for joining us. I know I'm just kind of rambling on by myself. Thank you, Pony Girl, for asking all the awesome questions. And if you did not catch the beginning of our live, this video, while you're watching it now, that means you are watching from our channel. But I'm hoping to do more of these virtual tours. Since we don't do live tours anymore from our old place, we had a little incident that make us not feel comfortable having too many strangers visit, but we think these live streams with questions that can be messaged to me directly will function the same way. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and happy Earth Day, everyone. Happy gardening. Grow lots of delicious food and flowers to enjoy. We will see you next time. Thank you. Bye.